A warm welcome to this video titled Armageddon and the Second Woe. This video will certainly be as important as the previous one and will show what the trap is in which a third part of mankind will perish right now. As always, I mention that without the knowledge of these two foundational videos, you will not be able to follow today's video. This latest video from us should have already been understood, and it revealed what Three-Eye Atlas really is, namely the censer that is already falling. It should be the video that you have already shared with all your friends and family because you love them and you don't want them to remain unwarned. Parallel to today's video, we have also published an extremely important article about the very difficult verse 13 in Revelation 11. I will briefly touch on it in this video. But the detailed explanation can be found in that article. Don't forget that the climax of the chiastically written Revelation is chapter 11. That is where everything comes together. Here is one of the last slides from our second-to-last video, which explained the three woes in connection with the interstellar objects. One-eye Oumuamua gave the warning. Two-eye Borisov stands for the first woe. The newly discovered Three-Eye Atlas logically stands for the second woe, which is currently unfolding. And today we will look at its verses in detail. It is also the censer, and a fourth object is yet to be expected, which represents the holy city when Jesus returns, which is definitely an interstellar object. So that was a little refresher. This video is about deceptions and confusion. Yes, about lies. That's why we'll clear up one thing right away. Here is a picture of One-Eye Oumuamua. Well, no one knows why it was so elongated. Speculations upon speculations circulate when you search for it. But what does the text say? And I beheld and heard an angel or eagle flying through the midst of heaven. Some translations have here an angel or an eagle. All of them, in any case, have huge wings and great wingspans in proportion to the body. Eagle is definitely correct, as shown in the last video in the explanation of the lightning. No, it is not a cigar, as many think, but an eagle, perfectly matching the text. You can already see the prevailing confusion about this object. Here you see the difference compared to One-Eye Oumuamua. That was an eagle, as both the shape and the biblical text show. Two-Eye Borisov, on the other hand, is described as a star fallen from heaven unto the earth, so a more rounded object with a coma. We have just cleared up another confusion. Now it gets even more interesting. Brother Ray has already explained Revelation 11:13 in detail in the article introduced at the beginning, which I will refer to again. But today we are focusing specifically and in detail on the texts of the second woe. That is, the sixth trumpet text. We want to determine from these texts when the second woe is past. In the last video, I already mentioned that August 20 would be a good moment when the seventh trumpet might sound. So the second woe must end at least somewhat before that. For the sake of completeness, let's mark the two time periods during which the two witness novae were visible to the naked eye. This image is from the last video and again shows the two novae visible to the unaided eye at the same time as heavenly witnesses. Let's first read here. V462 Lupi is a bright nova in the constellation Lupus, which was discovered on June 12, 2025. And we read further in the second yellow marked part that this nova, by around July 10, 2025, became too faint to be seen with the naked eye, even under ideal conditions. And for the second nova, we already know that it was discovered on June 25. And in this article here, from July 1, 2025, we can read that both novae will still be visible in parallel for about 4 to 5 nights. So July 1 plus 4 days would be about July 5. Let's mark that on our timeline. Here in violet, these two time spans are shown. From June 12th to July 10th, one nova, and from June 25 to about July 5, the second nova. And the line shows the last possible moment when this final part of the verse could have been fulfilled. So, at the latest, July 10. Their enemies must see them ascend. And this verse 12 was fulfilled exactly as described in detail in the article Elijah and the Silent Witnesses. So far, so good. Then comes verse 13. Let's read it first. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted, and gave glory to the God of heaven. Where does this verse belong in the timeline? That is the great mystery and gave us much difficulty, because this verse causes one to expect major physical destruction. But it is always the same. We must be careful with prophetic texts, for they are first and foremost symbolic in meaning. I will first show you the fulfillment of the last part of verse 13, because when you look at the timeline, this verse clearly stands in the context of the ascension of the two witnesses, and the same hour of the ascension when their enemies beheld them. That is the context. So, how did the remnant give glory to the God of heaven? Especially when we consider that it was during these very days that 3-eye Atlas appeared. How did the remnant give glory to the God of heaven, where the interstellar objects come from, especially the censer? How did we do that? In the days leading up to the publication of these two videos, we understood the significance of the 3 interstellar objects and worked on sharing that knowledge. Brother John created this short video, And we in Paraguay made the video Whoa, Whoa, Whoa. Both were published on July 10. And in this way, we gave glory to God. You might ask, why are we the remnant? And of which group of people are we the remnant? I will briefly mention that for the sake of completeness. Please pay close attention now. The verse says, and the same hour. But if you look it up in Strong's Concordance, it also means at the same time. We had always focused on the corresponding moon hour, but that relates to the fall of Babylon. Here, however, the context is the ascension of the two witnesses. So, at the same time as one sees them ascend, all these events must take place. This understanding brought the breakthrough in truly decoding the passage. This one verse fills an entire article, which Brother Ray wrote and which has just been published. I already mentioned it at the beginning of this video. Here's a QR code to that new article. I can only say, read it without fail, for it is a key verse, and how it was fulfilled during the period of the visible novae is brilliant, and only God can bring about something like that. As mentioned, it fills an article, but for the sake of completeness, I will briefly summarize the interpretation of verse 13 as clearly and concisely as I can. During the period in which the two novae were visible, the events of Revelation 11:13 were indeed fulfilled, just as the prophecy foretold. The great earthquake, which in prophecy certainly does not refer to a literal earthquake at first, was felt in the United States when ICE deportation raids enforced Trump's deportation policies. Keyword, the civil conflict in Los Angeles involving the use of the National Guard. Time frame from around June 6th to June 15, during which this earthquake was, and according to Wikipedia, is still officially ongoing. Earthquake here points to the prophetic place Earth, which stands for the USA. C would indicate Europe. And this nova appeared in the constellation of Lupus, the wolf in sheep's clothing. Another clue pointing to Trump. We have already fully unmasked him as such. 1/10 of the city mentioned in Revelation 11 fell during the 12-day war from June 13 to June 24, when 10% of the Iranian missiles rained down on Israel because the Iron Dome defense system could no longer intercept them due to the sheer quantity. This percentage can be found all over the internet. Then, because of the Trump attack on June 22nd against Iran's nuclear facilities, a sudden ceasefire was reached, which at the time further confused us and obscured the true meaning of the verse. Why must we now turn our attention to Jerusalem or Israel? because in the context of the two witnesses, they lay there where also our or their Lord was crucified. Well, that was in the city of Jerusalem in Israel. That must be the reference city Jesus was pointing to. This part of the verse also refers to the first nova. Then we have 7,000 men slain. This is a symbolic number that points to the many faithful delegates, and they were spiritually struck down during the 62nd General Conference session of the Seventh-day Adventists in St. Louis, Missouri, when their motion to amend a statement regarding the first woe, namely the COVID-19 vaccination, was deceitfully silenced. 7 times many. A clear reference to the Seventh-day Adventists, who, like the 7,000 in the days of Elijah, should have remained faithful, but this time, in the days of the prophetic Elijah, at the end of time, they were not. But why must we suddenly shift back to America? Because they perished in the earthquake. So it once again points to an event in the United States. This event is linked to the nova in the ship with the all-seeing eye, which shows that the SDA organization has now become fully part of the Catholic Thyatira ship. Even those who at least tried once more to revisit the vaccine assault of the first woe were silenced by the General Conference leadership on July 3 and 4 at the beginning of the General Conference session. The last bastion as a Protestant organization has fallen, and the appearance of 3i confirms it. The remnant of God's people was filled with the fear of God when they understood Jesus' movement in heaven and the meaning of his heavenly sign with 3i Atlas as the censer that was cast to the earth. A revelation that was given to this ministry to be shared with the world. And our name and our foundational studies show that we come out of the SDA Church and must represent the remnant. The God of heaven received glory, just as the text says, when the light of understanding about this third interstellar object and the two preceding ones was published, precisely on July 10, the last day the novae were visible, according to Wikipedia. These publication dates I just showed at the beginning of this topic. Every single event described in that verse was fulfilled exactly within that time frame, while the enemies beheld the novae ascending. It is impossible that it could be anything else but the described events. Search for another fulfillment that matches all the criteria. You will not find one. This was a tough nut to crack, But once again, thanks be to God and the little strength He sent to Philadelphia. Praise the Lord. Now that this truly difficult riddle of verse 13 has been solved, we will now turn our attention to the texts of the sixth trumpet. For if 2i Borisov stands for the first woe, and the text of the fifth trumpet were already impressively described through its path, then 3i Atlas stands for the second woe. And we can be certain that its path will perfectly describe the sixth trumpet texts. In our last video, I already touched on this roughly, but today we will go through each verse so that any remaining doubt in you may become less. Because ultimately, this is about not losing Armageddon. And we are right in the middle of it. Here are the first two verses of the sixth trumpet. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. This slide is from the last video. Here is the golden altar before God, there where the censer was needed. See Revelation 8, 3-5. The voice comes from there. It appears to be the voice of Jesus as a person, that is, as high priest, speaking to the trumpet angel in Orion. The golden altar is not in Taurus, where the altar of burnt offering is, but in the temple before God, there where the wheels are, near the belt stars. Please remember the last video. I already elaborated on this image. So when was this call to the sixth trumpet angel? That must have been before June 25, when Jesus was still performing this service. Let's look at the firmament. We therefore need the moon in the hand of Orion, which can represent various things like bowl, trumpet, sickle, etc. Here on May 28, we have a fitting situation. This is also the point where the seventh bowl of wrath began on our timeline. And that is also the moment when Jesus began to rise up, to then cast down the censer on June 25. So the command to loose the four angels at the Euphrates was given on May 28, 2025. In blue, you can see the path of K2, our Euphrates. By the way, the word in the great river Euphrates has many meanings. Look up Strong's Concordance G 1909. It can mean over, at, by, near, within, etc. So, we are indeed at the right place in the river region, where the actors are also located along the ecliptic. Let's read the next verse. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay the third part of men. This favorite verse of ours follows us to the end, doesn't it? But let's take another look at it. It is a three-part verse. The act of loosing, followed by a process or a time indication in the heavens, and the action after the passage of time. Let's first look at the act of loosing in the firmament, after the command was given on May 28. So let's begin the search for the four angels, which are to be expected after May 28. The first angel is Jupiter, and he was loosed on the well-known and significant drying up day of the K2 Euphrates on June 4, 2025. I'd say perfectly on the point. This also marked the end of the sign of the Son of Man from Matthew 24. You remember? The second angel is Mercury in the hand of Orion, who was loosed on June 7, 2025. The third angel is the Sun, just before the summer solstice on June 19, 2025. And the fourth angel is the Moon on June 24, 2025. What happened after all four angels were loosed? Three-eye Atlas appeared on the very next day, June 25. Once again, all of this flows together so seamlessly that chance is truly out of the question. The next part in the verse must be correctly understood. Hour, day, month, and year. On the very day, at the right time, Three-Eye Atlas appeared to mark the next verses of the sixth trumpet in the heavens, just as Two-Eye Borisov precisely marked the text of the fifth trumpet, that is, the first woe. Before we examine the text of the second woe in more detail, let's enter the data we have recognized so far into our timeline. The diagram looks worse than it is. Don't worry, I'll explain it thoroughly. We'll focus only on the green area. We begin with Revelation 9, verses 13 and 14, where it speaks of the loosing of the four angels, of the command, loose the four angels. And we saw that on May 28. Then follows verse 15, and as you may recall, this verse is threefold. First, the four angels are loosed, and that happened between June 4 and June 24. Jupiter, Mercury, Sun, and Moon. Then we have the time indications, hour, day, month, and year. We identified the hour with the blood moon on March 14. We defined the day as the solar eclipse on March 29. The month began on May 28, and the year referred to the summer solstice on June 21. Hour, day, month, and year. And don't forget, this month lasted until the moon sighting on the evening of June 26. That's why Three-Eye Atlas appeared perfectly timed on June 25, one day earlier. Wow, completely perfect. And what was Three-Eye Atlas supposed to do, starting exactly from here on? Now let's read the third part of verse 15. For to slay the third part of men. And this from June 25 onward. And right here, we must shift our focus to the path of Three-Eye Atlas, which we see here, and which will explain the next verses of the slaughter, just as Two-Eye Borisov perfectly explained the first woe. The question of all questions now is, how is the killing of 1/3 of approximately 2.4 billion professing Christians supposed to take place? What is the attack? What is the threat? Who is currently in danger? You will be completely astonished at what it is. Let's read the next verse. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. The section to which this Bible verse belongs is marked here. From June 25 to July 12, while Three-Eye Atlas was in Sagittarius. So it's remarkably perfect, because here a representative of the horseman is depicted. And in the context of the second woe, Sagittarius represents fallen Protestantism, as we have explained so many times in our teaching videos. Oh friends, I hope you remember the videos, the last act in the drama, and who is the dragon. There we unmasked the enemies of the final faithful ones and how they call for Armageddon. Remember, the false prophet is Trump. The beast is the papacy, with Pope Leo XIV, and the dragon was and is again Cardinal Secretary of State Pietro Parolin, the number 2 in the Vatican. Since the American Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost was elected as the last pope on May 8th and officially inaugurated into office on May 18, the chasm between the old and the new world has been fatefully closed. Three-Eye Atlas was present at that time here, though still invisible to us. Once Protestant America is now firmly in Roman hands. Please watch the 2 videos mentioned. It is impossible to repeat everything every time. Let's now calculate the number of the army of horsemen, that is, the Christians in the United States who have fallen or were already fallen. A first and quick result can be found by reading Wikipedia, down here on the right. A Gallup survey from 2023 indicates that of the entire U.S. population, 232 million at that time, about 67% is Christian. That gives about 224 million. We can already see that we are quite close to the 200 million. But of course, that is a poll from 2023. Here we see the total population in the year 2024, about 340 million people. I also tried to find out how many children under the age of 12 are included in that number. about 24 million for small children up to 5 years, and about 24 million for children up to 12 years of age. Now, we could say that we subtract the small children from the 224 million, since they certainly have not yet made personal decisions of faith. That would bring us directly to 200 million. That is one interpretive approach. Another approach would be to trust the current Gallup poll from 2024. It states that we can expect about 69% of the American population to be Christian. So let's take the total population of 340 million and subtract all children under 12. That is about 48 million. We then get 292 million people who are eligible for a biblically accurate calculation. You know that Jesus was considered biblically of age at 12, when he was able to converse perfectly with the scholars in the temple. Now let's take 69% of that number. We then get 201 million Christians. That is quite a good and plausible estimate. As you know, survey numbers and data always fluctuate. And perhaps there is another method to calculate the army of horsemen. But we can already see that this army in the land of fallen Protestantism, America, represents all of Christendom there, including Protestants, including the Seventh-day Adventists, as we learned earlier in the brief interpretation of Revelation 11:13. You only reach the number 200 million if the Seventh-day Adventists have also fallen. How sad is that? This is exactly the final act in the drama that we warned about before, and 3i Atlas points directly to this army of horsemen in the United States. In verse 16, we just dealt with the 200 million army. The next verse, verse 17, refers to the riders sitting on the horses, and the corresponding time frame is here, between July 12 and August 11. Let's read. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. The riders wore breastplates of fire, jacinth, and brimstone. Here we have Ophiuchus, who represents the papacy. In our case, Pope Leo XIV. And he is riding on Scorpius, a beast. We have various beasts that are submissive to the Pope, the UN, the G7, etc. We've made many videos about this. Do you remember this image from the video, The Last Act in the Drama? We have repeatedly and clearly connected these three colors to the Vatican and the papacy. It is the uniform of the Swiss Guard in the Vatican. Red, violet, and brimstone yellow. You couldn't ask for a better or clearer reference than this. 3i Atlas is positioned exactly near the rider during this time frame, and points loudly and clearly to Rome. We also have the lion heads, and they prove that we must have a Leo as the reigning pope. Again, perfectly timed. And the plural is used. This points to 14 lion heads. It is indeed the 14th Leo head who is now reigning in Rome. I'd like to remind you once more that on July 20, so right around here, Pope Leo visited the Vatican Observatory south of Rome. I will return to this at the end. Please don't forget that. It's important. And the final part of the verse says that out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and brimstone. Let's now read the next verse. By these three was 1/3 of men killed, by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. So, fire, smoke, and brimstone come out of their mouths, and that's what kills. When something comes out of the mouth, it has to do with speaking or proclaiming. If a nation were to speak, that could also mean it passes laws. But here we are in Ophiuchus, and the beast that the papacy is riding. Why is Leo looking up with a telescope? What have the media been reporting since June 25? What is everyone talking about that's so deadly? Yeah, even we fell into this trap for a while. When our day, month, and year had passed, that is, on June 21, as we just reviewed, we waited for the beginning of this killing and warned about it. And because of the mention of fire, smoke, and brimstone, we pointed to some possible scenarios. A supervolcanic eruption, a nuclear strike, etc. All these elements are involved. And right on June 22nd, Trump carried out that very bold strike on the 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, which in fact could have gone very wrong. Since Hiroshima and Nagasaki, no nuclear attack had been carried out until June 22nd. Let's read here on Wikipedia. On June 22, 2025, the United States Air Force and Navy attacked 3 nuclear facilities in Iran as part of the Iran-Israel war, under the code name Operation Midnight Hammer. And then we read further down, the attack was the United States' only offensive action in the Iran-Israel war, which began on June 13 with surprise Israeli strikes and ended with the ceasefire on June 24, 2025. But that is not what is meant by fire, smoke, and brimstone. And the ceasefire that followed only gave us more headaches, not because we desire war, but because the corresponding moon hour had expired, in which a devastating attack should have taken place. At that point, one has to take a step back and re-examine the entire prophetic picture in light of time and events. The timeline helps us understand the issue. The waiting period related to the year ended on June 21. And on June 22 came Trump's attack. But we must set our eyes on 3i Atlas, which explains the second woe. And when we do that, it becomes clear that Trump's attack was before June 25. Also, the 4 angels had to be loosed first, and that happened on June 24. So Trump's attack was before the 24th and before the 25th of June. By definition, Trump's attack cannot be part of the second woe. Therefore, the Trump attack, the Israel-Iran war, the war in Ukraine, and all the rest are not what we should have been watching. All that we constantly hear from the mouths concerning wars, this is fire, smoke, and brimstone, smokescreen, sound and fury, poisonous sulfur from the mouths, distraction, skirmish, false hope, false revival ideas, lies. First it's this, and then suddenly everything changes. Peace talks here, then not. Another phone call there, and things turn out differently. This is not about a physical war. It's a spiritual one. It's the battle of Armageddon, a spiritual battle, a battle between the faithful of God and the evil powers of this earth. But what exactly are the fallen nation of the USA, the lionheads in Rome, the riding beasts of the UN, G7, and so on, trying to distract the true Christians from? Meaning from this very time frame on. It should be clear that behind this entire distraction strategy stands Satan himself. What does he want to prevent the faithful of Jesus from seeing, or make them wrongly believe? What is the topic currently making headlines, where there is no consensus at all, where total confusion reigns, and where opinions are as numerous as the sand of the sea? It's about 3i Atlas, of course. It's the one that appeared at the exact right time to mark the second woe. Let's say it up front. It's about understanding what 3i Atlas is. And since the last videos, it has been biblically proven what it is. The cast-down censer. We have thoroughly explained what is connected with it. Jesus has stood up. The intercessory service is finished. And his return is more than imminent. All this was revealed in the last video. Now look at what is coming out of the mouths. Is 3i a spaceship? Are good or evil aliens coming? Do they want to destroy us or help us? Why is the spaceship hiding behind a cloud? Oumuamua was already strange, and so is 3i. 3i is an extraterrestrial probe. Aliens want to make peace, some say. Others claim it is just a normal comet, nothing special. Some believe they are coming to prevent World War III. 3i brings peace, others say. You hear and read all sorts of theories about what 3i could be, but no one speaks of what it truly is. That is why the last video is so vitally important, and this current one as well, because it presents additional, unmistakable evidence when we see how 3i describes the texts of the second woe at the perfect place and the perfect time. Now is the time not to lose faith. Up until now, many believed that the fulfillment of the second woe must involve a physical war, perhaps a nuclear strike. But no, the second woe is about faith in what heaven has revealed in connection with the Word of God. No, there will not be a golden age under Trump. No, we do not need to wait another 7 years for the return of Jesus. Lift up your heads, for our redemption is drawing very near. 3i testifies of it. Now, we want to give a very specific warning to the Church of Philadelphia. To all our closest followers, to those in our Telegram channels, and to all faithful Christians worldwide who have not bowed the knee to the Baals of today. Please do not fall for the lies surrounding 3i. This is the true battle of Armageddon. Be cautious about what you will hear concerning 3i and the alien deception. We are still in the time when 3i is pointing to and explaining the biblical texts of Revelation 9 regarding the second woe. This battle is not over. Don't forget, 3i is currently in Ophiuchus, and beneath him lies the great body of the riding beast, Scorpius. Yes, the United Nations, the EU, the G7. Pay close attention to what they will still have to say about 3i. And even if the claws of Scorpius are yet activated, we must listen very carefully and not fall for their smokescreen concerning 3i Atlas. I wanted to mention this right away. Please share our last video and this one, along with the related articles, wherever you can. Do not let the truth about 3i be silenced. Proclaim it loudly. Help ensure that no one perishes in this final battle. Here are some recent pieces of news that serve as distractions from the true appearance of 3i, smokescreens. Now they want to launch a heavy-lift rocket from Earth or use the Mars probe to explore 3i. Yes, all eyes on 3i. But the focus and the attention is being directed toward this technically difficult project. Yet all of it distracts from the true nature of 3i, the sensor, and everything connected with it. An even greater distraction is shown on the next slide. An even greater distraction is this. U.S. Vice President obsessed with UFOs. J.D. Vance has pledged to get to the bottom of the whole UFO thing that plagued the U.S. late last year. It was about the mysterious UFO sightings last year over various installations in the U.S. Some say they were giant drones. Whatever it was, the topic is now resurfacing at just the right time. Smokescreen involving UFOs, aliens, extraterrestrials, drones, and so on. You know how it goes. The press jumps on it, then investigative committees are formed. It all gains an air of importance when the Vice President of the U.S. Horseman Army tackles the topic. Don't let yourselves be distracted by it. Here comes another extremely loud smoke signal. On July 28, Trump shortened his 50-day ultimatum against Putin to 10 or 12 days, after which Medvedev gently reminded Trump that America had better not provoke Russia, or the U.S. mainland would be in danger. In response, Trump escalated the conflict on August 1st. Let's read. Trump escalates nuclear brinksmanship with Russia over social media spat. President Donald Trump on Friday told Russia he was ordering 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to change course in response to comments made on social media by Russia's former president. It was a rare public escalation between the two nuclear superpowers, and an unusual moment of brinksmanship in the atomic age played out in public and online. I think by now you've understood. We have recognized 1i, 2i, and 3i and their significance. And in parallel, Trump and all the other players are unleashing their fire, smoke, and brimstone in the form of war rumors, peace negotiations, trade threats, economic data, interest rate cuts, crypto hype, extraterrestrials, UFOs, and so on. Once again, in the next slide, I'll show you 3i in the claws of the scorpion, representing the UN or the G7 or perhaps the WHO. We will see. This distraction maneuver regarding the second woe will continue to intensify. But this warmongering will also spiral out of control, and whether we like it or not, and as terrible as it may be, it will ultimately lead into the hail of the seventh plague. All these threats are meant to distract from the true second woe. For the second woe is about the death of faith and ultimately about the loss of eternal life if one did not let themselves be warned by heaven and continued sleeping peacefully. Jesus warned the disciples, "Could ye not watch 1 hour with me?" Were they not asleep 3 times? Remember, the first woe was about the attack on the DNA given in Eden, which represents a direct rebellion against the Creator if someone allowed themselves to be injected with one of the DNA-altering serums. What do you think it means when Jesus will soon say to some, "I know you not"? Don't you also think that it has something to do with altered DNA? Friends, the second woe is not loud. It tests the watchful faith of the Christians. If you will, it is a sifting and shaking. Who is truly ready and has let themselves be made ready from heaven through Elijah with Philadelphia? You remember, he was to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children to the fathers. Let's read the next verse. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. Here we have once again the confirmation of what is being written, said, and shown in the media about 3i. That is what kills. That is where the power lies, in the mouth. It is poisonous talk about 3i. Also, be careful what preachers are spreading about it. Lion heads also point to religious power, meaning religious teachers. And Satan is the father of lies. Don't forget that. He and all the Leos so far absolutely do not want the children of Jesus to expect his return. Instead, they want to cover it up, hide it, so that people are unprepared. And this is a total attack against the proclamation of the time. I'll come back to that later. Now see, this part of the text also speaks about serpent heads. As I said, the battle is not over yet. Here is the time frame related to the verse, once again perfectly marked by 3i. The text speaks of causing harm. Be vigilant during this time. Let's read the last 2 verses. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. Much could be said about this, but it is mentioned twice that they did not repent. So at this point here, according to the verse, all people on earth have made their decision. And that is the reason why Jesus, the Son of Righteousness, returns to crush the head of the serpent. Allow me to say a few general words on the subject. One thing is certain. The alien false revival idea presented in the media and movies, the smokescreen distractions, the poison from lying mouths has been heard and seen everywhere, not only since June 25th, but for decades already, if we think back to Hollywood films. Humanity has long been conditioned for the appearance of extraterrestrials. And when the first interstellar object came, 1I Oumuamua, this hype went viral once again. To this day, scientists are puzzled, and opinions on what it was vary widely. We've had super telescopes for decades, so one must ask, why have interstellar objects only been sighted since 2017? It's not due to poor instruments. It has a biblical reason, as we hopefully have been able to prove. It is the woe eagle that made the announcement. And then the first woe followed. And now the second woe. That is the true nature, the true purpose of the objects sent by God from the third heaven at the perfect time. I don't think the topic could be summarized more concisely or more clearly than this. I hope and pray that the nature of the spiritual battle of Armageddon is now clear. It is not about war and rumors of war, but about understanding all the woes, including their representation in the heavens. It's about the loss of faith if one were to reject this understanding. And that indeed leads to eternal death. For without faith, it is impossible to please God. Now you might begin to grasp the scope of the great lies of our time. The lies about the interstellar objects, the lie of a second chance of Christ's return, the lie of 1,000 years of peace on this earth. All of that is crumbling right now, for the censer is cast only once. Now you see that the second woe began perfectly on June 25 with the discovery of 3I Atlas. But the substance of the lies concerning the understanding of all 3 interstellar objects and what they truly represent. There is total confusion about these interstellar visitors. Remember what Jesus said in Matthew 24. The end begins with the woes. And so the woes must be perfectly understood. And I assure you, no one else on this earth is proclaiming the truth about the three interstellar visitors except our small ministry, which unmistakably shows who has been able to decode the revelation and who has not. It is the Church of Philadelphia to whom God gave a little strength because they received the prophesied Elijah. And so the understanding came through years of diligent and painstaking study, learning how to discern the voice of God from heaven. Let's now look at a few important verses in order to understand them correctly. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Until the very end, faith is required. The mountain of evidence has become exceedingly great, but there must still be room for a spark of doubt. Because when faith becomes sight, faith is no longer needed. You see, the Lord reveals almost everything, even the time, and yet it must still be possible to exercise faith. If Satan succeeds in this final battle to kill our faith through the smoke screen of current wars, he has won. No. Now we clearly see what this is all about. That's why Jesus expressed such concern. When the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth? Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. If the good man had known. Let's read also in the bottom left. Remember, therefore, how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. If one does not watch, then one does not know the hour. The reverse is also true. If one watches, if one looks upward, then one knows the hour. And for such a person, Jesus does not come as a thief. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. For many people, the day of the Lord, that is, the Jubilee year, is unknown. They don't believe us. And for many people, the hour of his return is also unknown. That is, the day. Day and hour, year and day, are both mentioned here, and they are unknown to many people. That is why Satan and his army are doing everything they can to conceal and obscure the day and the hour of the return, so that as many people as possible remain asleep. The entire 200 million horseman army of the United States has fallen, including the Adventists. And this battle ends in the loss of a third of the believers, those who fall victim to the poisonous lies about the woes and the understanding of revelation concerning day and hour. With about 2.4 billion Christians worldwide, that amounts to roughly 800 million Protestants worldwide. And that is 1/3. How dreadful. That is the outcome of the last drama. Let's take another look at a few verses in Matthew 24. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For a nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows or woes. The entire Russia-Ukraine war, the Crimea crisis, the Iran-Israel conflict, the Middle East crisis. Do you see what kind of troubling wars have arisen since Oumuamua? That was, and still is, the trap, to focus on that. But it's about the beginning of sorrows. The beginning must be understood as when one eye, Oumuamua, appeared in the form of an eagle. I hope that has now become crystal clear. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. The abomination of desolation was the first woe. The DNA-altering serum that enters your body and every cell. Paul made it clear that the third temple is the body of the church, and your physical body. And this body is holy. This siege was equivalent to the first siege of Jerusalem. Then came a short pause between the vaccination assault of 2019, 2020, and 2021, during the first woe, and the beginning of the second woe. Now, just like back then at the second siege of Jerusalem, there is no more possibility to flee. The censor has been cast down. Whoever did not use that pause to listen to God's voice and flee will, one way or another, perish. Let's look at a few more verses in Matthew 24. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came, and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Noah hammered on the ark for 120 years, and each hammer strike was a sermon. But they did not believe Noah and his family. Back then, the ark saved from the flood. They thought that it had never rained before, and so it would continue. And today, faith, in the true meaning of 3I, as the censor, protects from the hail of fire, or the lake of fire. Today, people believe they know this or that about the interstellar messengers, but they do not believe what God's messenger, Elijah, and the Church of Philadelphia are proclaiming today about the coming judgment. Back then, the flood came, and an ark saved them. Today, the fire is coming, and the spaceship 4I ? Will save. Jesus was right. It is again as it was in the days of Noah. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. That is surely the favorite verse of most Christians, isn't it? At least for all those who want nothing to do with a time or a date. Some translations even add that not even the Son knows the day and hour of his return, that is, the year and the day. Well, we have often affirmed that in the year 31, when Jesus spoke those verses, he was still a man on earth and had not yet made his once-for-all sacrifice. I believe everyone agrees that Jesus knew everything back then, except the day and hour of his return. But then came his sacrifice on the cross, in his resurrection on the third day, when he received from his Father the confirmation that his sacrifice was perfect and valid forever. At least from that point onward, we say it would be legitimate and just for the Father to reveal to the Son the one thing he had not yet known, namely, the day and the hour. That makes sense, doesn't it? Now we read in Revelation 1:1. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass, and he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. The revelation was given by God the Father to his Son, and Jesus gave it to his angel, and the angel gave it to John. That's what is written here. Now, please use all your reasoning powers. If there was only one thing Jesus did not know, and here we read that the Father gave a revelation to Jesus, then it is 100% proven that the revelation reveals the day and hour, along with the events leading up to it. There's no other purpose for a necessary revelation from the Father to the Son than this. So whoever can decipher the mystery of revelation also knows the day and the hour of the second coming, just as Jesus himself learned it from the Father by the year 90 at the latest. That really hits hard, doesn't it? Every opposer of time setting has fallen silent. Yes, it has become more than clear that it is absolutely necessary to study Revelation together with the book of Daniel in order to know the time, so that one is not killed by the fire, smoke, and brimstone of our day. Therefore, will Jesus find the faith that is needed here? There's something you should know about the holy city and the moon. Because of the moon's importance, we once calculated, just out of curiosity, whether the holy city, using the measurements from Revelation, would fit inside the moon, since there are some ideas and theories about that. And once again, I asked ChatGPT to run the calculation again. Some claim that the holy city is a cube, While Elijah, in his remarkable book about the holy city, discovered that it must be a pyramid. Either way, only the pyramid, with a side length of 12,000 stadia, which equals 2,218 kilometers, would fit inside the moon. Interesting, isn't it? After all, people wonder where God will get the stone debris that is to fall upon the earth as hail. Where will he get it from if NASA hasn't seen anything like that in space so far? All right, that's enough of the speculative hints. Or wait, there's one more hint, and it comes from Rome. Remember that on July 20, Pope Leo visited the Vatican's own observatory and was very eager to look into the heavens. It's reported that he showed great interest in observing the sky, especially the moon. Does he know something that many others do not? There's more that could be said about this, but soon we will see why he showed such interest in the moon. One thing is certain. In the Vatican, we may assume, putting it politely, that Satan is present. The Pope knows full well that the adversary has but little time, right? And 3-eye Atlas is what the serpent bearer wants to cover up, as we learned today. And when 3-eye appears, then Satan, and therefore also the Pope, knows that 4-eye can't be far behind. For many, Jesus comes like a thief, because they did not let themselves be prepared by the message of time from heaven. There is no secret rapture of the bride. While others will hide from the impending hail, his children will go out and trust him, because he knows them. In the end, there's not much left to say, except please share this video wherever you can. Remain steadfast in this final battle and help the truth. And if God permits, and we are found worthy by grace, may we meet again soon in the cloud. Amen.